Monday morning, everybody. Hope you guys had yourself a great weekend. I sure as heck did, and I am excited to get this week started with you guys. I had a chance to go watch my son play some hockey over the weekend in a kind of the end of the year tournament. And man, there's just nothing better than getting involved in kids sports. So I just feel grateful they didn't end up winning, but there's nothing I'd rather do than spend some time with my kids and their sports. So I hope you guys have something to be grateful for this morning. I wanted to chat today regarding down payments and what kind of strategies you guys have for down payment assistance programs, or when you're got a client that you feel like, man, these guys want to buy, they're just struggling with the down payment. So I'm gonna just open it up to the floor. What is, if somebody wants to go, what's the first thing that you go to when it seems like they might be struggling on down payment? Where are you guys going? Martin.
Especially if they're looking in Springfield. I have a client now. They have grants all over the place, and they're not that difficult to get as long as you have to qualify. But $4,000. This client's getting $4,000 for a down payment, and then he's getting another 10 to do some stuff in the house. Because like I said, some of the rural towns and like Springfield do have a lot of money out there. You just if you work with the lender that knows all that, that's another important piece is the lender will help your client as well.
Yeah, so city specific stuff. That's awesome. Chris.
Even with the city specific, though, you have to be careful because there's parts of Springfield that they don't cover. Like when I was doing my open house on Bangor, and then I had one down the street on Plumtree. Bangor qualified and Plumtree didn't. So, like Martin just said, there is a specific, um, group of people that do handle the down payment assistance. But my go-to would be Mass Housing. They have the $30,000 workforce advantage one. And then if you don't qualify for that one, there's also the $25,000. The work
I
advantage.
want to come back to what you said regarding, well, be careful of the neighborhood or whatever. So I think some of these programs have, it's limited to the neighborhood, but are they all limited to the neighborhood? Because I thought a lot of them were just based on the person.
I don't know. That would be so the woman, I forget her name. I have her, I know who it is too. It's the woman that used to work for, like I could tell you 50 things about her, but I can't tell you her name. But she had come and specifically had gone over it because it was a buy Springfield Now weekend. This was just like 2 months ago. And she went through and she had all the paperwork with different programs. So I'm sure there's some that aren't neighborhood specific. And literally, when I tell you these houses are like miles apart from each other, they weren't even very far apart. But for whatever, she had the map that had it mapped out.
So Martin, do you know if the program that you're talking about has any kind of territory restrictions?
That I'm not too sure about. It was it. I don't know. I'm not gonna answer that because I don't know. Because I know they've done 3 or 4 and with a couple of my clients, and I haven't had any issue yet. So I'll say that much.
What's the most amount of money that you've gotten?
This I think this shipment would be the most, which is 24,000.
And
And
where are you
Martin,
guys? Go
yeah,
ahead,
are you
Chris.
getting that through the lender, Martin, or through like the program right in Springfield?
Actually, the lenders, it's through Springfield, but the lender's helping my client.
Is the lender the one that gave you the information on it?
No, because I heard it from somebody else that used it. But this lender he just opens up the door for my clients. That's the way I look at it.
Do you know what's it called though, the program?
No, but I can look it up. I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, let's
Sorry.
get that. Let's get that in the
No.
chat.
It is through housing though. So
Who else wants to talk about some sort of a housing program that you've had some luck with? Because we've tried forever to kind of keep a running list of these things, and it just seems like they change. And anybody have anything recently that you just want to throw on the table? Hey, I just used this. It worked really well. Here's the scenario that it's good for.
I mean, the mass housing workforce I've used probably 4 times in the last few months.
Let's talk about that one, Chris. What do you have any idea what some of those qualifications are?
If you are, so the workforce vantage is one, and then the 25,000 is a different one. The $25,000 one still still through mass housing, but that one is a little less, um, it's a little more lenient, if you will. The workforce vantage, there's an income, and I want to say that it's like 78,000 for like the single person, and your credit score has to be 660. I think I'm
Something like that.
90%
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, but yeah, so KB just put it in the
Yeah.
thing. So
And that's different from the Wayfinder program because I know Sue just put in there Wayfinder 30K.
I don't have any idea.
Okay. I'm thinking those are two separate programs. And part of the point why I want to bring this up today is you guys got to know these things. We can't, get to a client, think that we're really close, they want to buy, and that you guys don't know that these different little programs are available, right? So that's why I want to talk about it today. These are the tools that you got to have in your toolbox to put deals together, right? If somebody is just short on down payment, maybe they can qualify for one of these programs. Anybody else
I
want to bring
do feel
another? Go ahead.
I do feel like, Steve, you have to be in close contact with your lender as well. Stay in your lane, kind of a deal. Like, yeah, we need to be knowledgeable, but I'm not going to go telling them this, and this. I'm going to say, oh my gosh, I work with the best lenders, and they are, have these deals for down payment assistance. And then I connect. That's why you have to have personal relations with the people that you work with. That's
Yeah.
just my thought.
Yeah, 100%. And different lenders are going to have access to different programs, so talking to different people and this is a format where I want you guys to bring these things down. Let's put them on the table. Hey, I just used this. I just used that. This lender had this program and never heard about it before, right? If a lender's putting in the work and they're getting access to stuff that another lender doesn't have, you've got to, have a couple of different options. Anybody else with another program? Anything federal that anybody's aware of that's not state specific? All right, how about another topic on other ways? What else? So we can go to down payment assistance programs, right? KB, I don't know. I saw you posted. Are you in a position to talk? Is NACA still doing their thing?
Yeah, NACA still does their thing. I
Okay.
mean, NACA is always an option if you have someone who doesn't have perfect credit because they are a character-based lender. So they're basing their lending off of people that pay their bills. You know what I mean? They understand that sometimes you do something that messes up your credit, it takes a little while to get it back on track, and you could still possibly be a homeowner. There are definitely limits when it comes to their purchase limits. So there's no income limits, but there are purchase limits, and each area has a different amount that you're able to purchase up to. Um, there are definitely some hoops that you jump through, but it's a phenomenal program. I think it's probably one of the best out there.
And is that program still giving a significantly lower interest rate than what the market is bearing?
Um, no, I mean, it is lower. I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a long time. I can jump on there real quick and see what it's at, but it is lower. But the cool thing is there are no closing costs at all. So they're just going to pay the buyer's only going to pay their closing expenses, not any traditional closing costs. So um, any money that they have or any money that they can get from a seller, um, which isn't really the market to get money back from a seller, but you typically put that toward buying points, right? So you're going to buy that rate down a little bit. Right now, 30-year fix is at 5.5.
And then talk to me a little bit about what is the trigger that should go off in an agent's head, KB, to think, oh, this is a good client for NACA.
They if the client if someone tells me that their credit sucks, but that they can pay their bills on time and they have plenty of money, Normally, it's that would be the first thing that I think of is let's take a look at NACA. There are some steps. It does take a little bit longer. It's not like you're going to take a client and be like, "Oh, let's go get you a NACA loan." It's not doesn't work that way. They have to go to a workshop, and then once they go to the workshop, they have to meet with a mortgage counselor. Um, so it takes a couple months to get them approved, but I've had people approved in as quick as 2 months. So it just depends on how busy they are.
And Chris was asking about income levels, and I think you said there's no limit on
Nope,
income.
no limit on income. No limit on income. It's just purchase price. So if you go to the NACA website, you go to NACA.com, you should be able to put in the area code, I mean, the zip code that you're looking in, and it should be able to give you the purchase price. They're pretty reasonable. I think that Springfield was like 450. Um, so, and there are some areas that you can't buy in, but not really in Western Mass.
All right, so we've talked down payment assistance programs. I saw Chris put in here, right? Hey, I don't have a down payment. Can we find a USDA loan? Right, so can we buy in an area that's rural where we don't need a down payment? Right, VA would be the other one. So we can look at loan programs that just don't require a down payment. Right? Is there any way that they can qualify for some sort of a veteran benefit or know your USDA maps, know what your rural towns are in your market, and then can we go find them a property in one of those towns? Anybody want to chat on USDA if somebody's done one recently? Is there anything that we need to look out for or be aware of? Sue, I just see that you put in the chat, what does that stand for? What is that, NACA, the NACA? Or were you looking USDA?
NACA is Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America.
Okay. All right, so we've hit down payment assistance. We've talked, let's look at the loan products that they're using. What else do we have? Let's say neither of those work. Gift money, right? So can they get some money from a family member? I believe it has to be family. I don't know if anybody can clarify that. If you can get something from a friend, I don't know if anybody knows the difference there or when you can do that, but absolutely. Gift funds would be the next one. I don't know, has anybody done something recently with gift funds? Want to talk to that? You know, typically they're going to, the lender's going to require a letter.
So with the gift funds, I just had one in South Hadley where um, two families kind of merged and bought a big house, but only one family is on the mortgage itself. So, in order for the other woman to give a large sum of money as a gift, because it was a down payment, the first lender actually said no, and the second lender said absolutely, as long as it's going to be their primary residence. Like this is their residence, they can absolutely put into it. So we closed it completely with that happening, but that was because they weren't family. But as we were talking, the lender was kind of pushing, like, well, is it your child's godparent? Is it your, you know what I mean? So it did seem like there were hoops to jump through.
Right. I think they're looking for, is there a real, some sort of an incentive on why I want this to happen? Right.
Right.
It's not completely two parties that have nothing to do with each other. Um, so just for clarity on that one, Chris, the issue with the first lender was that it wasn't family, but the second lender was saying, hey, if you're going to be living in the house, I'm good with it.
Correct. The second
Yeah.
lender actually looked it up, found in whatever big old book of 5 million pages where the clause was that as long as it was going to be the primary residence, which it 100% is the primary residence, that it was doable. So, yep,
Cool.
who you work with matters.
Okay, so we've added another one, right? We can get gift funds from a family member or maybe close extended family relative, some sort of a relationship. What else can we do? Adam.
Hey, good morning. So, a lender had turned me on to a program called Money Management International. And apparently, as the story goes, part of the credit card company's responsibilities are to essentially put money towards a nonprofit, which then turns around and helps people consolidate credit card debt. So, this would be for a buyer who's got high credit card debt. And I think they give out like 1% or 2% loans to consolidate debt over like 20 or 30 years. So it's going to help people that might have high debt to income and high credit card payments to be able to qualify for this program. So it's kind of like it's not like NACA, but you've got to go through like a credit monitoring, program. They put you through some classes, and then you qualify for these loans. So it might be something to consider. It's called it's moneymanagement.org, I believe.
And the thing that we want to trigger in our mind that might be an option is we've got somebody that's got in a little bit of credit card trouble.
Exactly.
So we got consistent income, but we've got credit card debt.
Yep. And then if you
Okay.
take any kind of credit card debt and divide it over 30 years, now your payment becomes much more manageable than the minimum payments that you might have to qualify for a loan otherwise.
Right. So now my debt to income just got a lot better.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. And KB's got the link to that one in the chat. Who else has got something? What else can we do? Martin, is your hand still lingering or you have more to add? Yeah, and you're muted,
Sorry,
bro.
no.
You're a mess this morning. You're a mess. Have a coffee, brother.
I just celebrated my 50th, so yeah, I'm still a little. I'm still,
A little slow.
Yeah.
All right, come on, guys. There's a lot more here. What else can we do? Right? We got a buyer that's ready, willing, and able. How do we help them? I also wrote down employer assistance. Right? Does their employer offer any sort of money towards this stuff? A lot of the bigger employers will do this. Right? So make sure, and this is something that you should probably be recommending to all your buyers. Hey, just check with your employer. Do they offer anything? Right? Most people have never looked at those employer benefits. They have no idea. So if they're working for, bigger, especially if they're in healthcare or, education or public service, like these are the places where there's definitely more of this. Large corporations like a Mass Mutual, those type of places, they definitely have programs like this. So make sure that you are exploring that or having your clients. Awesome share here, Sue Anderson. Take it out of your 401k, 100%. Right? That's another option. If they don't have down payment, but they've got a decent 401k, I think you can take out maybe up to 10%, maybe even more. I don't know if anybody knows that off the top of their head. You can also withdraw from your IRA, right? And I think with the IRA, it's like up to 10,000 with no penalty for a home purchase. What else? Yeah, Chris just put in the chat, Bay State gives 7,000. You can't make over 75. No condos. Right? So it's important that we know this stuff. And if you obviously we can't know every single employer, right? But these are the conversations. Get to know your clients. Ask these questions. See if there's some funds available. There's still more options that we haven't covered. What do you got? I got somebody with no down payment. Lauren.
Utilizing seller concessions when we can to help with the funds that we would need. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so
a little bit different, right? Because you're not having a guarantee before you go into a contract that I have these funds. So it's going to be a little more lenient, contract to contract, whether we're going to have those funds available, but an option for some additional, maybe even on top of some of your other resources.
Yeah. Now they can't contribute, as far as I know, they can't contribute to your down payment. They can just offset your closing costs, right? And those can be extensive, right? So absolutely utilizing seller concessions. Sue?
If I can get my,
You had
I'm
it.
working, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So
We
I'm
had your
working
camera
with the,
there though for a second too. We want to see your beautiful smile, Sue.
oh no, I just got up.
Oh, gee.
I'm drinking my tea right now. Um, so I'm working with a pastor and his church is purchasing the home. I mean, I don't know if a lot of that falls into that category, but maybe churches have some kind of funds for people.
Okay, cool. That's a great share. What else? Let's get creative. What else can we do? We've now tapped into retirement funds. We've had other people helping us. I had written down a couple more things. So we can get a cosigner, right? If we can get a cosigner, maybe they can contribute some funds. And the other thing I wrote down is just trying to get creative with some seller financing, some off-market stuff, right? I don't have down payment, but maybe I can get a seller to take a second on a property, right? So what that means is I'm getting a normal, conventional loan, which requires me to put 20% down, but the seller is going to give me the extra 20%, and I'm going to have a second note with the seller. Right? And maybe it's 10% or 5% or whatever, but there could be some scenarios where, and maybe you're going to overpay for the property a little bit, but there could be some scenarios where a seller, especially if stuff is sitting right now, right? Can we get creative where a seller might be willing to do that? So anybody have any follow-up questions? I don't know, we talked about 9 or 10 different strategies. Anybody have any follow-up questions or just want to add some color to any of the strategies that we talked about? Okay. Anybody have a unique scenario from the weekend? Something going on in a real estate deal that you want to just share and let everybody know about?
Steve, can I?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can never tell if
So,
your hands are lingering, Sue, or you got another comment.
well,
So
I
go
took
ahead.
it off and I put it back on, but
Okay.
anyways. Um, so I showed us property yesterday. New people to me. They're wonderful. Where they were all set to go. They want to put in an offer, and then it's subject to them selling their house. And I went, ooh. So I made plans with them for Friday to go and see their home, and put it up for sale. And I went through clauses to consider, and the what I have is a weak statement, you know, on the addendum, for them to sell their home. Any advice? The soonest I can get in is Friday.
You're just saying, hey, I want to make an offer. They got to sell their house. I haven't even been in to look at it. And what do I do?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think you got to just be honest with the other agent. This is the scenario. If I'm that other agent, I probably need to wait until you get in there, see what price are we going to be listing it at. It's going to be tough, I think, to tie this property up and get them to take an offer when we don't have those, final details. Now, having said that, I've definitely put some stuff together where the listing agent just wasn't smart enough to ask those questions, and especially if the market's a little bit slower and they've had no activity, maybe they're just, excited to get something on the table. And again, without the experience on the other side, potentially you could get that property tied up, meaning get an accepted offer on something. But if you're on the listing side of something like that, you really got to be careful. I want to know if I'm accepting an offer that's got subject to selling a property. I want to know, I want to take a look at a market analysis. What's the property worth? What are you guys going to be listing it at? Right.
Yeah,
And then
I
I
don't
want,
have any of those answers yet.
right. And so if I'm the listing agent, it's going to be a tough one for me to accept. I don't want to tie up the property when I don't even know, it's worth 300 and your people want to sell it for 400. I accept that offer and we're sitting here waiting for you to sell a property that's never going to move. So Amber.
Yeah, I have one of these right now. So one of our newer agents got a buyer lead. The buyer wanted to put an offer in on a property, got it accepted. She needed someone to do the listing side. I talked to them both on Thursday. They hadn't gotten the offer quite accepted yet. But her property had to go on. I spoke to the client. She did end up getting it accepted. I was there on Friday, had the contract signed Friday, had pictures done on Monday. We just did the open house this weekend. So we put it on Monday and there weren't very good photos. The photos came on Tuesday. But we've had no showings. We had 2 people show up to the open house. I had recommended right from the get-go. This is the price I would put it on at. She wanted to go a little bit higher and it wasn't crazy. It was just 10,000. I said, that's fine. But if we don't have any traction, and the open house doesn't go well, I recommend dropping it right away, right after the open house, meaning today. So lo and behold, I talked to her. We did a group meet with, the buyer's agent on our team and, the client, and she's kind of fighting the fact, well, what is it, because the due date is coming on Sunday. If she doesn't have it under agreement, then they're going to put it back on the market. And she's kind of fighting it. So I've got to have a conversation with her this morning, like, hey, this is what we've talked about. This shouldn't be a surprise to you. If she wants to lose the property and keep looking, but unfortunately, these people are doing everything backwards. And it's causing a little bit of a headache. So hopefully we can get a buyer for this property because it's under 300 and it's the only condo in the area. So I'm hoping we can get this done.
And so just for
not
clarity there, Amber, it sounds like in this scenario, the offer that you guys made, the listing agent took it, but they were smart enough to say, hey, we'll take this, but you guys got 2 weeks to put this under agreement or I'm going back to market.
Yeah, I wish I had seen the offer before because I would have put a little bit more into that offer. They had to change it a little bit because they wanted to go back to market, but originally she was pre-approved through a different bank. And that bank said she didn't have to sell to buy. The new one, because she decided to get a second opinion because she didn't like interest rate, yada, yada, yada. I did obviously recommend our lender, but she went somewhere else. They're saying she has to sell it. So it is what it is, but she has till Sunday to get an offer. I mean, they could technically put it back on the market and she could get an offer in a couple of days and go back under. But she's feeling stressed about it, which I totally understand. But again, we did talk about this. So
Yep.
look, a little bit,
Shaston, I see your hand up. What do you got?
Yeah, I have a question in regards to like if you get, so say if you're the list agent and you do receive an offer from a buyer, but they do have a property to sell, but they've got that property under contract, how long do you have to provide that agreement between like if the buyer is selling their property and they're under agreement, that contract, how long do you have to provide it? And then once is it based on, the original contract date, or is it once, you're countering back and forth? Like when does the clock start?
Yeah, so I just want to be clear on the question, right? So you represent a seller, a buyer comes in with an offer that says, hey, it's subject to me selling my house, right? And then you're saying how long do they have to show you that they got their house under agreement type of a thing?
Yes.
Yep. So you write it however you want, right? We could say, hey, within 24 hours of you guys getting an accepted offer, I want to see the contract, right? In this case, maybe they gave the people a couple of weeks to get the property under, right? Maybe if it's a slower market, you might say, we're lucky to have an offer. You guys can have 4 weeks to get your property accepted, right? You might say, hey, after 2 weeks, we want to see you guys do a price reduction of $10,000, $20,000. And after 2 weeks after that, we want to see another price reduction, right? So it all depends on who's got the leverage. And if you've got the seller side, you want to make sure this deal is going to go through. So we want to put as many things in there to make sure that house gets sold as possible. But depending on what kind of cards, if the market's hot, you wouldn't even consider somebody that has a house to sell and is not under agreement yet, right? So as the market's shifting, these are the different things that we need to kind of work through. Make sense?
Yes, awesome. Thanks.
Yep. Trevor.
Hi. So yeah, my current I have two deals pending with the same client, a buy sell situation, and it's a little interesting because we were on the market this past fall, and some health stuff came up, so they decided to take it off the market for a few months just so that they could kind of settle in health wise, and once they were back looking, they found a really nice condo that they absolutely loved kind of right away, and luckily we still had the listing kind of set up and ready to go for when they were ready. So I had reached out to a couple agents that had put in offers last time just to see if we could get something in before going back to market. Those didn't end up working out, so we made a plan to write the offer subject to selling their house, and I just put in there that we're going on market tomorrow. I kind of had a conversation with the list agent for the condo, letting her know that the house is completely updated, don't see any issues selling it. That conversation went well, and she just said that they're going to put a kick out clause on it. And then when I brought that to my clients, they were like, yeah, we totally understand that. We would probably want to do the same thing. So we did get the offer accepted first, and then luckily the showings and open houses went well and got something under agreement early the following week. So that one kind of worked backwards, but it worked out just because um, I think it was because of the communication and just kind of letting her know that it was
And you
pretty
had
much a done deal.
ducks in a row, right? Hey,
Yeah.
we've listed this before. You can take a look at the old listing. You can see that we had priced it fairly well. This time we're going to come back. We're going to be priced even a little bit more aggressively. Like all of those things. This is the communication to make the other side feel confident that this deal is going to end up closing. Right? That's what we're trying to do. So good. Chris, your hand is up.
So I have not used this myself. However, I know 3 agents that have. There is a new program right now out that Annie Mac Mortgage has that Angela Torville is doing. That is um, they will give you cash. Annie Mac will give you cash to become I just looked it up. It says, are you buying and you can't afford to buy without selling? They come up with it first. So there is some deal. And I do have a realtor friend close to me that just used it twice. So I don't know how they're doing it. I haven't had to do it because, I educate the shit out of my sellers that they have to get under agreement first. But if it is a desperate matter, like, oh my God, they saw something, they see someone just wrote cash to keys. So yeah, I do know that they've used it where they fell in love with a house. They needed to sell first. They went, they qualified, it happened, they sold, and it was all perfect. So that's another thing to look at.
Yep. And there's a few different programs like this of companies. There's some big like companies that, got private equity funding where they just have, millions of dollars sitting in the bank, and they are trying to just help these people with this little transition, right? So that you can go and make an offer, not having to worry about selling your house, but there's going to be a cost to it, right? You're going to pay a percentage or you're going to pay some fees or whatever, but for the right buyer, no problem. I just want the guarantee that I can get that offer accepted. And it just makes it nice and smooth for the seller to accept that offer, knowing that there's no struggle. We're not worried about them selling that house. It's a done deal. Sue.
What about bridge loans? Can
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah. Bridge loans. I mean, for whatever reason, I just don't see those too often. But 100% there are lenders out there that'll do the bridge loans. Just talk to the lender about that. Amber.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you guys can provide a different perspective. I wrote an offer and then the agent got back to me and wanted us to remove the escalation clause, which I get. They also wanted me to remove our $25,000 appraisal gap coverage, and they wanted us to remove offering a $500 credit and if we backed out at inspection. And I was just wondering how that would benefit the sellers in any way or why that would even be requested. And, like, I went back to her and tried to explain it to her because my thought at first was like, "Okay, maybe she doesn't understand what an appraisal gap is." So I, like, kinda walked her through the process and was like, "Hey, so God forbid anything happens." She's like, "Yeah, no, they just don't wanna muddy up the waters. They just want a clean, straightforward offer." And I was just kind of like, okay, well, not knowing is kind of more muddier than knowing at least you have $25,000. So I don't know. I just figured I'd run it by to see if anyone had any other insight on why this would be something you would want or prefer.
I can't think of any reason why, as a seller, I wouldn't want that extra language. That's just covering me. I think you've got an uneducated listing agent that doesn't understand.
Yeah, that's what
I
I
mean,
thought. So, and then she also said that the person selling the house is also an agent and they know all the terms and they just want something that's straightforward. And I'm like, okay, but you're asking me to remove the things that are benefiting your seller. Like, so yeah, the whole situation was very weird. But I put it all in writing when I emailed her back. So we'll see.
yeah. Unfortunately, it sounds like you had the conversation. I just think trying to do that stuff over email, if they can't
No, no, it
understand,
was all through phone conversation,
okay.
but like because it was through phone conversation, I wanted documentation of it. So when I responded, I kind of re said our conversation via email.
Yeah. Okay. Adam, I don't know if you're in a position to talk. I don't understand what you were putting in the chat here.
I don't think I put anything in the chat.
Oh, you guys got to change your names. iPhone this, iPhone that. Who's iPhone 3?
Oh yeah,
Can
about
you?
the appraisal. Yeah, she did say she thought there was no issues with the appraisal, but I beg to differ. When I pulled the comps, it was like 380. It looked like was going to be the highest appraisal number, and they already had it at 389, and my clients went to like 4, escalated to 430.
Yeah.
So
The
that's why we
problem
put the
is even if you
25,000.
think there's no issues with appraisal, you'd still want
I
some
said that
extra
to her.
guarantee that if there
Right. And I said that. I was like,
was,
great. That's so great. You feel that it's going to pass inspection. I mean, appraisal. That's really great. But, just to have some security there, God forbid anything does happen or comes up we're unaware of,
yeah,
there's,
we're
that's
guaranteeing
$25,000
that.
coverage. She's like, yep, just
Yeah.
remove it. Just remove it all.
Yeah.
So then I even asked, like, okay, well, what position would that put my client's offer if you want me to remove all the things that are benefiting your seller? I don't want that to hurt and weaken our offer. So then she kept saying, like, oh, well, just go to your highest escalation clause number and you'll have a great offer. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they're going to be willing to go that high. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was a whole
I
thing.
can't think of anything.
Yeah, okay. I was just making sure I wasn't missing anything because it was really odd to me too. So
Yep.
Only thing I
All
would
right.
add is that you are
Yeah, go ahead.
tipping your cards a little bit to the appraiser if there's appraisal language in there of 25,000. That's the only thing I can think of. But based on the situation, I don't think the listing agent's even thinking about that.
Right.
I also kind of feel like she didn't present the offer. She just kept saying, like, my clients wouldn't like this, they wouldn't like this. And then I was like, oh, well, did you even present it? And then she's like, oh yeah, I did. I presented it. They seen everything. They don't want it. I'm like, okay. So I don't know. It's really
Present it
confusing.
yourself.
Yeah, that's what I don't know. So it's really odd.
All right, we are well over today, guys. Good banter today. Hopefully, you picked up a couple of different ideas on what to do if you get in a situation where your client just doesn't have the down payment funds that are necessary. So, we'll take a quick look at the training opportunities for today. Let me get those up on the screen. 3 different opportunities: Commercial Real Estate 101, Social Media and Marketing Mastermind, and the Sales Accelerator. So take a training, go learn something, bring it back to us. I hope you guys have an awesome Monday, and we will do it again tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks, Steve.